I'm excited to talk to you guys about this game today because it was a really cool experience. I love when we get to play these co-op games together, me and her, and always have a good time. It's bittersweet when it comes to an end because we don't get to play our game anymore. And coming into Split Fiction, we had really high expectations, and I think that game is meeting most people's expectations. I have it here on IMDb. It has a 9.3 out of 10. You're playing as a couple, and it's about like them finding a new spark for their love, and it's about them, you know, reconnecting and finding ways to work. It's a co-op game, and it forces couples to work together. Welcome to Backseat Directing, where we talk about movies, TV shows, comics, and more. We post new episodes every Monday and Thursday, and today I'll be talking about the new video game, Split Fiction. 3, 2, 1, action. Say hi to Aaron.
Hi.
All right, Aaron, get on out of here. We have a special treat for you guys today. This week, we'll probably film a couple episodes without Aaron. It's just a really busy week, so I'll be doing a couple solo episodes here. Goodbye, Aaron. So he stepped out. He unfortunately hasn't got to play Split Fiction. I did play it with my fiancée, Sierra, the other love of my life. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about this game today because it was a really cool experience. I love when we get to play these co-op games together, me and her, and always have a good time. It's bittersweet when it comes to an end because we don't get to play our game anymore. But we have moved on to Unravel 2, so we're playing that. And please leave any recommendations for awesome co-op games below in the comments. But let's get right into the review. The game Split Fiction. It just dropped recently, this year, 2025 released, being produced by Hazelight, this really cool company that I have a ton of respect for. We have also played It Takes Two, which was an incredible experience for us. Me and Sierra really enjoyed that game, playing as May and Cody, seeing the creativity of the studio. They do an awesome job of dropping you into these different environments and giving you new abilities or new weapons to keep the game fresh throughout. And the story of that game is really cool too. There's a lot of emotionality in It Takes Two. I think that transferred somewhat well into Split Fiction, but I do think they also took the creativity up another notch in Split Fiction, which is not something that I could have imagined after playing It Takes Two. I know I have to play A Way Out. We watched the trailer. We'll play that one soon as well. But It Takes Two was the game that really got us into playing Hazelight games. And coming into Split Fiction, we had really high expectations. And I think that game is meeting most people's expectations. I have it here on IMDb. It has a 9.3 out of 10 rating, an incredible rating. It's only been rated 496 times, so that's a relatively small pool. A lot of times with movies on IMDb, which is the more common thing to rate on the movie database, you'll see tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of ratings. So this is a small pool, but it still tells you that people are really loving this game, and Hazelight's putting out something that is at a really high level. They even said after making this game, though, that they feel like they can do better. The creative developer of the game said they know that they can do better, and they're already hard at work on the next game. And people who defeated a super secret special laser level in the game that was hidden, that's coming to light a lot now on social media, people that defeated that level first got invited to travel to Hazelight and get a sneak preview at the next game that they're developing, which is very exciting. You don't know how badly I wish that was me. But let's talk about what is Split Fiction, what is the story. So let's see if IMDb has a summary, because they might be more succinct than me. Embrace mind-blowing moments as you're pulled deep into the many worlds of Split Fiction, a boundary-pushing co-op adventure. It doesn't really tell you much about the game itself. It's about two strangers at the beginning of the story, Mio and Zoe, and I'll keep it spoiler-free for the next 10 minutes or so, and then I might get into some spoilers, or probably a little bit shorter, but I'll give you a warning before I say any spoilers. So the game, the concept of Split Fiction comes from the two characters being storytellers. So Mio is a big fan of science fiction. She writes science fiction stories, novels, and then Zoe, on the other hand, writes fantasy stories. And they come to this company, Raider Publishing, where they have this new experimental tech. They've invited these fresh, young, creative minds in to come in and test this technology. And what it's going to do is it's going to take them into these orbs and start accessing parts of their brain in their stories to create this kind of augmented reality VR experience where in your mind you're teleported into this creative virtual world and you actually are inside your stories. And the owner of the company, Raider, and no spoilers here, this is very obvious from the beginning, is going to turn out to be the big CEO rich villain of our story. And he is trying to take the ideas away from the creatives so that they can do this on their own and sell the augmented reality system so people can play in these stories and experience them basically, like fully enveloped in the story, living the experience of the story. And there is some pushback from our more reserved and questioning, skeptical character, Mio, the science fiction lover. When they take everybody into their pods, she pushes back and questions it and wants to leave. And she ends up, through happenstance and arguing with Raider, she trips and falls into Zoe's story, which is our other main character, the fantasy lover. And they both are woken up into the fantasy world of Zoe's story, but they can quickly see that the world's starting to break down with these glitches. They'll see like a glitch in the middle of their world that if they touch, it teleports them somewhere else. Because their minds are being put into the same pod, it's breaking the machine and splitting the stories. So that's where we get the concept of the story. That's where we get the name. Like I said, IMDb was a lot more succinct, but mine really actually gives you an idea of what happens in split fiction. And these two characters are both really interesting. I think maybe this story has a little bit less of the emotionality chord. It still has the emotionality because there's issues that Zoe has in her life and issues that Mio has in her life that are really plaguing them and that they draw an inspiration for, like anybody does for a story. You might draw on your traumas for a really good story to make people feel and connect with you. That's what they do. So that gets delved into way deeper into the story, which is in the second and third acts of the stories where I feel like this game really picks up and hits its stride. It gets more creative in the visual elements and the gameplay elements, but also gets more in depth in the story and the emotionality. But I feel the tether cord of May and Cody more, maybe because you're playing as a couple and it's about like them finding a new spark for their love, and it's about them, reconnecting and finding ways to work. It's a co-op game, and it forces couples to work together. And I feel like also the issues relating to their daughter and the emotional turmoil it brought her with the relationship difficulties her parents were having, I think was very, very, sad and made that story really, really fun to play because you were so invested in the core emotions of the story. But I think that this one, and I'll get into spoilers here, so cancel here if you don't want any spoilers for Split Fiction. 3, 2, 1. So this one is more just about a pair of unlikely friends. They come into it, they meet in the elevator at the beginning and they don't really vibe with each other. But as we get further and further into the story, they learn ways to connect these two female friends. They form a bond, and throughout watching it, you're wondering if it's more than friendship, if it's going to be romantic, and ultimately at the end of the game, it's not, which is totally fine. I think when you're playing it, maybe you want something romantic to be there because maybe that just feels a little bit richer. And if they grew to care for each other and love each other, then you would feel more upset when the other character is in danger and that kind of thing. But the friendship is still beautiful that grows between them, and it's kind of like, I don't want to compare it to something so monumental, but the relationship between Joel and Ellie in the first Last of Us, where they start out as being forced into companionship, and then they grow to really care about each other and help each other with what they were missing in their life. Throughout the story, Zoe is missing a sister, and she kind of gains this friend, this sister-like character in Mio, and Mio is losing this connection with her father, and she gains the emotional support that it seems like she never had because it feels like she had to grow up really quickly and take on a lot of responsibility. She has somebody who is willing to listen to her, somebody who will support her, and it just seems like she's always kind of supported herself, and she created this dark personality inside her mind to fend off emotion before it can even get close to her. So she was just filled with this kind of lingering anger and darkness inside her that ends up being her main boss fight at the end of the story. And the story really does get incredible into this third act when we learn those things, when we learn about the struggles in their own lives. And it's fun throughout getting to play the different stories. I mean, the dragon story from Zoe is incredible. The squid story I had a lot of fun in for Zoe. I'm sorry, for Mio, and like the side scroller aspect in that story. One thing I love about these games that I think anyone can appreciate is the way they change the gameplay and pay homage to so many things of the past. I mean, I felt homage to everything from Star Wars to I felt like Soul Eater with the Moon Market. I mean, everyone, A lot of people are saying that it's Harry Potter, but I felt like that was Soul Eater to me. Just the size of the moon and then some aspects of the community. Um, and they're paying homage to Elden Ring and iconic games like Samus's game, Legends of Zelda. There's the Akira slide at one point in this game. So anime with Akira, they're paying homage to all kinds of incredible iconic works of fiction, and then gameplay elements like you've got top-down moments in this game, you've got side-scroller moments, you've got tracking from in front of them as they run towards the camera, tracking from behind. I feel like references to Spyro, references to Sly Cooper, all kinds of amazing classic games. So you feel like the game is being developed by people who love video games, who love storytelling, and then who love other forms of media, like with those references to anime and other movies as well. It feels like, the candy side mission felt like a reference to Wreck-It Ralph for me with Sugar Rush, the game that Vanellope von Schweetz comes from. So I feel like the reverential nature of the game makes me feel like they're like me and they just love content. It's super fun to watch, you can appreciate a lot as you're going through. But speaking of side missions, this is something I recommend nobody skips while you're playing through this game. Play every side mission because they clearly put so much love and fun and excitement into these side missions. Like, it's not worth it to skip. And they're also relatively quick, which I almost wish they were longer because it's so much fun dipping your toe into these creative little stories. The few that jump to mind, and while I'm talking about this, the developer made a statement saying that every week I think on Friday they have or a certain week they have this time Freaky Week, and they just throw crazy ideas at the wall, and you can feel that. You can feel like that they just took wild ideas. People were throwing things up and they found something that sounded fun and silly, and then they actually put it into the game. Because there are points in the final boss fight where the map is spinning, where your perspective's changing, where one person breaks out of the screen and you're controlling the game as if you're like outside of the game, tilting side to side like you're holding an iPad and the other characters in the iPad. There's moments where like the glass of the screen of the game is breaking, and all of that is just super fun, and it feels like they got really silly with it in a way that works incredibly well. There's moments where the worlds are split in half, and you can, on the left side of the screen, on that split screen, you're in Mio's world, and on the right side, you're in Zoe's world, but they match up in the middle where they have the same kind of stuff. Like they might have like a pylon that's made out of metal for the science fiction world, but then it's a tree in Zoe's world. So incredibly creative and so much fun you can look at both sides of the screen. You're like getting whiplash looking back and forth, trying to see what your partner player is looking at. And they even have moments where like that line for the split screen is moving side to side and spinning around with extra worlds and extra challenges as a new map opens up, and you're jumping from leap pads onto piranhas, and it's super exciting and super fun. So I love that they did the Freaky Week and got crazy with it, but you can tell they did that with the side missions too. Some of my personal favorites, there's one where you're in kind of a sketch-like story where the details aren't filled in, there's no color, and it's a work in progress. It's like a workshop story, which is great reference to anybody that's worked creatively. You have that opening phase where things are still in flux, and as you're playing as this little sketchbook character, Zoe has a narration because it's her story, and she'll erase something with her pencil and an obstacle will disappear, or she'll draw a new barrier that you have to get over. She'll draw to give you weapons like a sword, or at one point she gives you bow and arrows. You can pick an enemy at one point, and she'll draw in that enemy, whether it's like an eagle or an octopus or a dragon, a demon, and it's so much fun. That probably was my favorite until we got to the Sugar Rush episode. And that episode, you play as a tooth in a story that Mio wrote when she was a kid, and she was afraid to go to the dentist, I think, for one of her first times going to the dentist. And she wrote a story about being a tooth, and the whole world around her is made of sweets, and you're bouncing on pies and cakes, and it's so fun, so creative, and every inch of the screen is filled with something that is candy. So I think they just did such an incredible job on that story. The boss fight in that with the dentist is super fun. What was another one of my favorite side stories? I like the one with the sandworms. That felt like a Dune-inspired world. There's a lot of good ones. The Moon Market's fun. I think that's a lot of people's favorite. I don't want to spoil every single one of them if you're watching this far and you haven't played it, because I do recommend going and playing Split Fiction. You can play it local, which is what me and my fiance did, playing from the same console, or you can play online where I think what they do with their games is if one person buys it, another person can play with them for free. That's what they did with The Way Out. And I think I was looking on Xbox Store, and you could do that as well with this game, where the other person can just connect with you and they can play online without both of you having to buy the game, which I think is really fair, because I mean, it's kind of like what we would have done back in the day if when we didn't have online is you would just buy that game and then play it on the same console. So this just lets you do that same thing remotely. But I think that getting far away from where my research was at here. I think that the end of the game is an absolute highlight of the game. The boss fight there is one of the most creative boss fights I've ever played. This is probably, I have recency bias, but is one of my favorite games that I've ever played. I still think It Takes Two just edges it out just a little bit because of the story, and maybe It Takes Two felt a little bit longer. I don't know if it's just the way that we played it, but gameplay wise, it felt longer. I chose to play as Mio because I prefer science fiction a little bit more, and my partner Sierra played as Zoe because she prefers fantasy a little bit more. So it worked out perfectly. I think that a lot of couples are doing that. At least guy-girl couples. A lot of guys I've seen are playing Mio and girls are playing Zoe. But the fun of it is, with a game like this, is you can go back, switch characters, and have a different experience where you have different attacks the whole time, different weapons and things like that. I'm not going to keep repeating it. But you guys know I like this game. You guys know I'd recommend it. And I look forward to see what Hazelight brings in future projects. That is basically all that I wanted to say about the game here. Got into story, got into gameplay mechanics. I think that the voice acting was really good. I think that covers just about everything. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure that you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell so that you don't miss any of our awesome upcoming projects. Make sure that you follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X. We're all over the place. Follow us there because we post new content, short form content daily. You can join our Discord. It'll be in the link below. That does expire in the description below. The link will be in the description below. That does expire after about a week, so if you're coming to the video late, just comment or give us a message. We'll give you an updated link to join the Discord. We're all talking on there, me, Aaron, past guests of the show, other fans of the show, and we just love to talk about movies, TV shows, and comics. We've got different groups in there to do polls for fun, to talk about movies, to talk about TV shows, to talk about video games like this, to share trailers and react to stuff. It's very active in there, and it's a lot of fun, so make sure to join in. It is totally free, doesn't cost you anything, and thank you guys so much for watching, and that's a wrap.